Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the morning show here in Stock Market TV, the best morning show in finance. I am Spencer Israel. We got JC Parets. We got Steve Strazza. Who else we got? We got the chart master Alfonso and Wizard Giancarlo working behind the scenes today. So good show on the docket. Let's see. We're talking about oil. We're talking about the home. Oh, did you guys see the home builders yesterday? The candle there. Whew! What happened? I'll be honest. I don't know why that happened. I don't know if I need to know why it happened, but we'll talk about the home news. We'll talk about crude. We'll talk about, let's see, large caps versus small caps. We'll talk Roku dropped some guidance on us this morning. We'll talk about that. We will share just some of the highlights from JC's conference call with his members last night. Guest today is Brian Lund from the Lund Loop. It'll be in about 20 or so minutes. We'll keep it Sokoloff. Mornings with Mary as well on the docket. That's the plan. You know what to do. Smash the like, sit down or stand, however you watch the show, and here we go.
All right. Are we having a conference call hangover? Is that what this is?
Are you having a conference call hangover? Is that what's going on?
I always do. I always do because I'm just running my mouth for an hour and 10 minutes, depending on how many charts I get going. And my lips get a little chapped. It's like a hungover. It's like did I drink last night? I guess I had a couple of glasses of wine, but I wouldn't say I have a traditional hangover, but it is a little bit, it's also very like relieving, because it's like everything kind of builds up to that conference call, and then like there's no questions. I don't have to answer any questions. Like everything is there. Like if you want to know what I think about anything, go watch the conference call. Like, so it's kind of like it gets everything out of my chest. And in the old days, like when I lived in California and I would travel a lot more, I would purposely schedule the conference call the day before I left. So like I would leave to wherever I was going, and it was like this like stress-free flight of like,
right,
nobody can ask me anything. It's all there. Like I got nothing left, right? And that was kind of my move in the old days. And now that I don't go anywhere because I have 3 babies, it's still pretty stress relieving. It's kind of like lift off the shoulders, right? Does that make sense?
So I was up in the air while you were giving the call last night. Are you going to give me a summary, or I got to go rewatch it here today?
Funny junk. Alfonso asked me to send the deck, and I sent the wrong deck. You saw that. That's not the deck, Alfonso. I don't know. I sent you the last conference calls deck. I don't know why I did that. My bad. So many conference calls. I mean, we do it every 2 weeks, but that was the last one. So I'll get you the updated one. Oops. All good. We talk every day. Like we talk all day, every day. You know exactly. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Why don't we give the folks a little preview of what we discussed?
State of the markets.
State of the markets. All right. I mean, listen, I think there's 3 main charts here that I think probably tell the story the best. And the first one is the good old-fashioned S&P 500. Right? People love the S&P 500. They don't like the Dow. They don't like it when I talk about the Dow. They're like, oh, JC, nobody talks about the Dow. Nobody looks at the Dow. It's right? You get that all the time. Meanwhile, if those people just took 2 seconds to go back in history and look at the S&P 500 and the Dow, they'll quickly notice that they move together. And not just in the long term, like definitely in the long term, but in the short term too. So you might like hate the Dow if you want, you could, whatever, if like you have like some demons from your childhood or something that you hate at a stock market index, fine. But just remember that if math means anything to you, they move together. So let's focus on the S&P 500 for right now. The Dow looks similar. It's kind of just a mess, particularly in the short term. We're in a range. What are we looking at? 4,300 to the downside, 4,600 to the upside. And guess what, Strazza? I don't think this range is going to resolve anytime soon. What do you think?
messier for longer, right?
Messy for longer, yeah.
We've been in these environments before. I think a lot of market participants prefer trending markets, so we might look at something like this and hope for a range resolution. But look, the bottoming process is really still playing out here.
Yeah, hope is a terrible strategy. We're in a range-bound market. The major indexes are stuck below overhead supply. Yesterday, we looked at the industrials, we looked at technology, we looked at semiconductors, all of them stuck below their prior cycle's highs, right?
Yeah.
Spencer, shout out Spencer, just mentioned home builders, same thing, stuck below their prior cycle's highs or right at their prior cycle's highs. While that's the case, these indexes aren't going anywhere, right? Which is good because that's what we've been preparing for. That's what we've been positioning for. So I'm all for a range-bound market. It's just investors need to realize that this market is much different than the market in the first 6 months of the year, and there's nothing wrong with that. So there's different strategies and different ways to profit from different types of environments. And the things that we were doing in the first half of the year are very different than the things that are working now, right? And I think that that's going to continue to be the case for the foreseeable future. So I don't know how long this range is going to last. My suspicion, Mr. Strazza, is that it's probably going to last longer than most people want it to last. I personally don't care. We could resolve tomorrow, for all I care. That's not the bet that I'm making. So messy for longer is the trend, and the S&P 500 tells that story well. And then quickly, not to beat a dead horse, but here's that 4-year presidential cycle where this, we were supposed to have a great 3 quarters. Fourth quarter of the midterm year, first 2 quarters of the pre-election year are supposed to be great. What do you know? Stocks did fantastic, broke all kinds of records, just incredible performance. Any idiot could have made money in that market. You could have just bought anything, and it probably worked out very well. This is not that market, and it shouldn't be. This is the time of the cycle where markets should be correcting, and markets are correcting. It's not this like, oh, it's not a correction, JC, because the S&P is not down 10%. If you think the number 10 means anything, you should check yourself into a mental institution. The markets have been correcting for a couple of months now, right? The new 52-week highs list peaked almost 2 months ago, and both the S&P and the NASDAQ 100 each peaked in July. We are now in the second week of September. So just keep in mind that we've been in a correction. We continue to be in a correction, and I think the correction probably lasts longer. Now, here's the chart that gets everybody angry, Strazza, and I want you to tell me your theory as to what pisses people off the most about this one. Throw slide 3 there, Giancarlo, stocks versus commodities. This is the multi-year downtrend in stocks relative to commodities.
Yeah.
Why do you think people get so upset when I tweet out this chart?
Because they're underinvested in commodities.
Got it. So that's the reason you think it's not the diagonal trend line? Because that kind of bothers me a little bit.
Listen, with something like this, you don't overthink the diagonal trend line. It's just like an arrow on the chart telling you the direction of the primary trend.
Right. So the trend here is down for stocks relative to commodities.
That's right. We had a nice little reprieve, 22 to now, and now it looks like we're going back to that old regime where we should expect commodities to outperform.
And historically speaking, Mr. Strazza, do commodity cycles usually last only a few years?
No, they last very long. We were talking about this yesterday. I mean, think of the price action from crude oil just over the past few days in energy stocks, right? I think they're very much telling us that a new leg higher could very well be underway. They've gone sideways. They've digested gains for a long time. We had a good conversation about energy stocks, I thought, on Spaces yesterday.
We did have a good conversation on the Spaces. Spencer, why don't you drop the link to that Spaces? I thought that was a very good unexpected. I didn't really know what that we were talking about. You guys were like, oh, come on the Spaces. I was like, yeah, sure. All right.
We don't
and then we get into like this philosophical conversation about like prior cycles and, sentiment. I thought that was great. That was great. So Spencer, drop the link. So the folks can I encourage, it's only like 30 minutes. So definitely check that out. But this is a chart that really explains what's happening here. And I think that's actually, I hadn't really quite thought about it. I was generally curious what people were so upset about, but I think you're right. I think it's because they're underinvested in commodities. A good point there, Strazza. Shout out to Strazza, making good points today. And then finally, here's the catalyst of them all. But Jay-Z, why is the market correcting? We're in a bull market, you said, right? because the dollar's been strong.
Yeah.
Notice how the dollar bottomed to the day. I think it's to the day, either to the day or within a day or two. I'll check right now.
When
the new 52-week highs list peaked.
Yeah. Yeah, it was right around the same time. Yep.
You think that was a coincidence?
No, listen, the short-term trends really changed in July, right? And then you look at
the dollar index. Hold on, sorry. I can't help myself. Sorry. The dollar index bottomed on July the 13th, and the new 52-week highs list on the New York Stock Exchange peaked on July the 12th, and the new highs list on the NASDAQ peaked, ready? July the 13th.
There you go.
So if you're wondering why the stock market has been under pressure, look no further than this guy right here. And, maybe it's money flowing into the dollar as a defensive rotation as it comes out of stocks. Or maybe the fact that the dollar's been strong is what's putting pressure on stocks. I don't know. It doesn't actually matter. The correlation remains negative. It's been negative for quite some time. If there's anything that's been consistent in this market over the last several years, it's been the negative correlation between equities and the US dollar. And clearly, this is not one giant coincidence that the dollar bottomed to the day that the new 52-week highs list peaked. If the dollar remains strong, stocks are going to remain under pressure. So what's going to be the catalyst to get stocks going again, to break out of this range where it's not messy for longer? I think you need a dollar rollover. Is that crazy?
I mean, no, stop. It's not crazy. Have we not seen it before? Just think back to last fall. Was it not the same thing? Dollar peaked and rolled over. I think it was like September 28th. And when did stocks bottom at the index level? October 13th.
Yeah.
So,
That's exactly right. So, I mean, to me, these are a few of the major themes that we discussed on the conference call last night. Spencer, if you can drop the link to the page where people can watch last night's conference call for premium members of All Star Charts. I think it's everything you need to know. But I think these three charts, without getting deep into the weeds at individual sectors and stocks and industry groups and all that stuff, I think these are three charts that tells a story.
Yeah, for sure. How about this question in the chat? I'm overinvested in oil. Do I risk to lose the XLK breakout? I think we've really beaten a dead horse on this topic, JC. But you can own them both, right? It doesn't have to be an or between energy and technology. It seems like a lot of investors are either one or the other, right? And I think that's a huge mistake. You can own tech, you can own energy. I think JC made some great points yesterday on spaces. They can work together. Maybe we haven't seen it the past few cycles, but it can happen. And I don't think we should, sit back and anticipate, if energy is going to break out, tech's not going to work. No, they can both break out together. You can have exposure to both. What's wrong with that?
Why don't you, Giancarlo, throw up slide 5 there. I think this one tells an interesting story. What do you think about this one, Mr. Strazza?
Show me.
Show him, Giancarlo.
Yeah, fine. Listen, we can show this relationship in so many ways, right, JC?
Show the next chart. Well, first of all, explain to the folks what we're looking at.
Look at energy relative to growth stocks.
Right. Bottoming out this summer, right, when the major indexes were peaking, right? And then look at the next chart right after this one. This is going to be slide 6. It's going to be directly energy versus tech. Major top or not a top? I think if this chart that we were looking at of stocks underperforming commodities over the last several years is going to continue to decline, which is the underlying trend, this line is going to go up, is it not?
Yes.
Yes.
Is this the right benchmark, you think?
For energy XLE, probably not. Is that what you're asking me?
No, benchmarking it against tech stocks.
Oh, I was going to say XLE is probably not the best benchmark for energy. Oh, no. Right? You know what I mean? Like there's so much other things going on. It's not like a terrible benchmark for energy, but it's It's a lot of Exxon and Chevron. There's a lot of other things going on in the energy space.
I'm pretty sure this might have changed, but it used to be the case. There's less than 20 large cap energy stocks in the S&P 500, so you're not getting a big mix in there.
Yeah, Jerry, those CVX leaps that we bought. First of all, they're no longer leaps at this point because they expire in a few months. We got these in January or February of 22. Remember this? So they're no longer leaps. Now they're short-term options, which is hilarious. And the answer is yes. And I've actually bought additional Chevron 170 calls throughout the summer, as we've discussed plenty. So I hope that answers the question, Jerry.
Cool. Should we roll the leaps? Do we roll
the leaps
into some 24 or 25?
Well, we already kicked out half the trade, right? So this is kind of just like a free ride going. This is just a free ride. Going into expiration, kind of just, let it go. We could talk to Sean about it when he comes. We could actually, Sean's going to be on the show tomorrow. We could talk about it. We'll certainly talk about it in the meeting today in terms of risk management as those options expire, which they expire in 4.5 months, I guess, right? What are we showing? We showing this poll? You see this poll that I put on Twitter, Strazza?
Yeah.
All right. So the question was, see if you could zoom in a little bit there because it's hard to tell. But the question was, can energy stocks and tech stocks both rally together over the next 3 to 4 months? 46% said they'll rip together. Only 9% said they'll both fall. 34% said energy up, tech down, and less than 10% said energy down, tech up. So what does that mean? That means that 80% of respondents think energy is going higher. That's aggressive sentiment, Strazza.
I worry with these polls, right, that we're not getting. Are we coaching to these answers?
Yes, that's right. That's right. Because they're also Charts followers, so they've been following me along, right? Yeah. And we got a lot of votes. How many votes did we get? We got over 1,000 votes, so it's not like a small sample size.
No, it's not.
That's aggressive on the energy side.
Hey,
80% think energy goes up. I don't think I've ever put out a poll with that much, right? That's aggressive.
Oh, God. T-Money, we're going to get to Roku a little afterwards, probably after the guest segment.
Rachel, are you excited? Are you excited to party in California with us? Rachel's stoked. Rachel's stoked, right? BC Lund in the house. Rachel's a BC Lund fan. Who's not a BC Lund fan, right? Come on. You're not a fan of the old BC Lund. Your life has gone horribly wrong? Is that right?
Maybe. Brian Lund is here backstage. Should we bring him in?
I think we should.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, Brian, you ready? What ready or not? You're coming on.
I was going to say, Brian's always ready. He's a pro. Jay, we've been friends for a long time. Make the call.
I mean, this is pretty professional, guys.
Nice show you got going here.
BC Lund in the house. Brian Lund, editor of the Lund Loop.
My kid just wandered in here and said, "Who's that guy yelling about energy leaps?" I said, "Go back
What
to
is
bed."
an energy leap? These
It's
kids
early.
these days, they don't know what energy leaps are, Brian. Can you imagine these kids? They're first learning about energy leaps. You and I, we've been through some cycles before. We know.
They don't know anything happens outside of their phone or their device. They don't know that there's a real world out there. Oh.
Right. Are these energy leaps on TikTok? Is that so BC, king of Huntington Beach, right? Aren't you the mayor of Huntington Beach?
That's what they tell me. That's what
Right?
I'm the
He's
honorary mayor, I think.
The prince of Little Saigon, right?
Yeah, what other titles can you throw on me, JC?
I'm just throwing them at you. The speaking of which, we're gonna go get a fancy Vietnamese lunch while we're up there.
Yeah, look, you guys are. I'm sure you have a much more booked schedule than I do. So whatever works, we'll figure it out.
I tried to not book my schedule. Like all these people were sending me things for meetings. I just ignored everything. So I'm just gonna show up, and if you want to hang out, come find me. I'll be by the bar most likely. I'm easy to find.
Shocking, yeah.
Hey, be by the bar talking about charts. I'm very loud. You can't miss me. I'm not short. Right? I'm not as tall as BC, but how tall are you, Brian?
So I used to be about 6'5", and then I lost my hair, and then so I'm now 6'4". So.
You know, I thought about you last night because this is what I do. I think about Brian Lund.
No, I don't want to know where this is going. You're thinking about me at night, JC.
I was watching somehow.
You have a lovely wife. You have these kids, and you're thinking about me. Okay.
No, they're all asleep at this point. So I'm watching the top 20 drum solos.
Oh boy!
At the introducing a song, like at the beginning of the song, like drum solos.
Yep.
Before the song gets going, top 20. I'm like, you know who would like this? Right?
I bet you I know what number 1 was.
I got to top 4 and then I fell asleep. That's how exciting it was for me.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually didn't watch the top 5. So
it's probably Bonham, probably Zeppelin, something like that.
Yeah. The guy said like the top 5 are like you're gonna know, right?
Yeah.
All right. So pot stocks, huh?
I knew you're going there.
How can I not?
We have to. We have to start.
We got to start there. Can we throw up a chart of Tilray?
Brian, why don't you give us some background? This was one of the biggest moves or biggest weeks in the history of these stocks, depending on how you want to measure it. What happened last week?
Well, let me give you a little even more background. So like 2 years ago, I watched someone do a presentation on pot stocks. And not only were they going to cure all of your ills, but they were going to be a generational wealth machine.
That's right.
And they've been nothing but the opposite. And what's really interesting about pot stocks is they have that same cultish feeling that you get with like meme stocks or with crypto. People just will not admit that they have been hot death for the last 2 years and really missed opportunities if people have been focusing there. Having said that, I think what's really interesting, and this is something I know the three of us have talked about so many times, right? These contrary indicators. So we've talked about the coal ETF, KOL, that went out of business in December of 2020. And right after that is when all the coal stocks started ripping. We had a pot ETF, not the main pot ETF, but PDSN, which announced like a month or so ago that they were closing down, right? And at that time, I made that comparison. I said, you can't trade off these things, but it's like a flare, right? It's like, I better pay attention to that, right? And sure enough, now we start seeing these pot names waking up. And more importantly than waking up, they're not doing these. So sometimes you see these mechanical moves.
Hold on a second, Brian. Speaking of waking up, can you guys wake up and throw up slide 1, please? Jesus Christ.
Must be great working there at All Star Shirts. So you see these moves like we saw recently in Bitcoin. You see that one straight up move, right? To me, that's like a mechanical move, and often those moves just get retraced, which we've seen. That's what pot's been doing every time it moved up. But this time, we're actually seeing a sustained move. It's rumblings about them rescheduling pot. So, I think they're a little ahead of themselves right now, but if this is actually the beginning of the bottom, there's going to be lots of opportunities over the next, months and years to get involved.
So, Brian, I got to be honest, from a news perspective, though, this is a little confusing for me. I did a lot of work and followed really closely when the cannabis industry really started becoming a thing about 10 years ago. They've been talking about this rescheduling my whole life. I mean, are we really supposed to sit here and act surprised that the government is going to admit that marijuana is not as dangerous as heroin? Surprised. I mean, market, I guess.
Look, I have a lot of questions about the role of marijuana pot in society. I've never smoked pot, never used pot. I don't have anything against it, but I don't think it's like we all think alcohol is
pot.
No, never.
Really?
Never smoked pot. Yeah, never.
You grow up in California? Isn't that like a thing?
I know. I was kind of a dork when I was growing up. But look, we all think there's this big movement now for people to drink less, right? I think we know the ills of alcohol in our society, but now we're going the opposite way in pot. But that aside, I think the difference this time, Steve, is the price action. I mean, that's why we're technicians, because you can hear story after story, narrative after narrative. But when you see the narrative match with price action, that's when you're supposed to say, okay, maybe there's something here. And again, I think this is the first time in probably 2 years I've seen any real sustained move in pot that hasn't been retraced right away.
I have two questions for you. Number one, Is
Yep.
the trade as simple as if we're above those 2020 lows, about 250, you stay long, the upside is exponential, the risk is very well defined? Is that the trade? And number two, is this really a healthcare stock? Seems more like a consumer staple, maybe. No?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where it really is going to fit into to what sector. I don't know how it's going to wash out in terms of the trade. I think there's two ways to look at it, right? I mean, you can look at it as a hot trade that you might want to get in short term, but here's the fact of the matter. Most of these pot names are super cheap, right? I mean, they're like perpetual call options, assuming they don't go out of business.
And by cheap, you mean the price of the stock, not the valuation.
Correct. That's right. So I think it's a question of, do you buy into this big cyclical move? Like, you think this is going to be an extended thing? These are names that are going to be transformational 2, 3, 5 years from now. If that's the case, do what I've been doing, which is just buy some with some discretionary money, put it in a drawer, and wake up 5, 10 years from now. That's probably the better move than trying to trade these as
You put your stock certificates in your drawer.
Yeah. I have a drawer over here that's stuffed with a lot of stuff.
Dude, I would love to see the Tilray stock certificate. I know you're joking, you don't actually have those, but that would be something cool to have. No?
Now, you think they even have those anymore? Do you think that those companies actually have physical?
I think you could. I think you can order them from your broker. I'm pretty sure you can.
So
so that was the big deal when I was growing up. Is what a grandparent would do is they would buy their grandkids one share of Disney or a couple shares, because the actual certificate had the characters on it in color. It was kind of a fun thing, right?
That is cool.
Yeah, and they'd frame it, and that was a really cool way to teach kids about finances, about stock. They knew what Disney was, they knew what Mickey Mouse was, but what's this certificate on the wall that's got Goofy and Donald, all these different things. So that was kind of a cool thing to do. Now
it's funny. It's funny, Brian.
It'd be a bong, like the Tilray would be a bong on this.
Nice. You're showing your age,
lingo.
because when I was a kid, the grandparents would buy us bonds because rates were so high. So you're so old that when you were a kid, right, rates still hadn't gotten going, right? Is that what's going on here?
Well, it's funny you say that, because when I was a kid, I remember thinking to myself, oh, all I need to do is get like $1 million and put it in a CD that will pay me 18% for the rest of my life, right? This retirement thing's easy.
It's 180 grand a year, chilling.
Yeah. And I have to tell you, for a long time, I went back to that mentality of like CDs, money market, they're worthless. They don't pay anything, but recently I put some of my kids 529. I moved to cash in some of those accounts and some of my retirement accounts, and I swept them over to a money market. I'm paying like 5.7%. I couldn't believe it. I was shocked.
I like how the new Flex, like you see like the Twitter ads, it's like interactive brokers like flexing their return on like their yield on cash. It's like,
right.
Wow.
Right.
Like, is that not a sign of the times that the Flex is a high yield savings,
Why
cold plunges and money markets? That's the hot thing now. So.
Oh,
hold on. Let's stay on pot stocks. I used to do inventory counts at Depository Trust Corporation, DTC, where you're literally counting the stock certificates and making sure that what a broker says they have is actually over there at the DTC. I don't know if they still do that today. Long time ago. But I want to talk about pot stocks over the long run. I mean, there's some talk in the chat about what sector these stocks are in. For me, these are consumer defensive. They're agricultural commodities, right? So you would classify them in the same way as a Archer Daniels Midland, right? Or any of these agricultural.
You wouldn't look at it more like a Philip Morris?
Maybe, I guess.
Yeah, it's definitely more Philip Morris than Archer Daniels.
Here's the difference. The pricing power for companies that sell cigarettes is very strong, incredibly strong, right? They're not cutting prices of cigarettes anytime soon. Ever since they started selling cannabis in these stores, either medicinally or recreationally, margins just continue to shrink and shrink and shrink and shrink.
Yeah.
As the sales price of these goods comes down and down and down and down.
And it's cheaper to get it in the black market illegally anyway, right? That's part of the
it's
problem.
Yeah, it's becoming commoditized. And here's the thing is they have plans out here in California for these massive fields, right? Where they're going to be just putting so much supply in the market. My question is, will there be a a cannabis brand, right? Will there be someone that becomes the new Coca-Cola or something? And will that have the value, take it that way? Because I don't see really how it works from a commodity standpoint. Where you're just going to get a company produces a lot of the stuff that's going to be the baseline to add to other products. I don't know how it's going to work.
They're going to drive the price down, I think, still so much further. And then I think that moment to step in over the long run is when they finally find some sort of equilibrium, right? And okay, this is what this is going to cost. Like cigarettes, you're going to go and they're going to be $15, at least up here, right? Doesn't change. Cannabis needs that to find out, okay, what is the actual price of this? It's still just falling.
And you wonder if there's going to be some consolidation. There's been consolidation in the last 2 years just to save companies, right? Basically. But you wonder, like, as they get on their footing, as they start to get some traction, will we see that roll up? Will we see some companies that become, Tilray's done a little bit of that, and it'll be interesting to see how that plays out.
I think you have to, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on from pot stocks. I like how Rachel, our local marijuana correspondent who focuses on the pot price index here, says that pot costs less than it did when I was 16. So no price inflation there, more like a price deflation. Am I right? What's up? So, okay, fine. So cash, pot, what else you got? Guns, ammo. What are you buying?
Guns and ammo and pot. So this is a story I've been pounding on for over a year now, probably maybe 2 years. And again, this is one of those things where you can't just trade it based on the story, or you can't invest on the story, but the story is the thing that goes, and that is the nuclear, however you want to say it, and uranium stocks, right? I've been talking about UEC, NXE, LEU, the quadruple U, and they look really good. And I've talked about the fundamental story right out here in California. For my whole life, all we've been doing is shutting down nuclear power plants. The state of California recently just said, you know what? We have to keep Diablo Canyon, which is our last power plant, not only open, but we need to extend its life for another 20 years because we can't support the grid on solar and wind power. And I think you're seeing people across the world start to go, hey, you know what? If we're really serious about this green energy thing, maybe nuclear is the way to go.
These stocks look so good, Brian. Just the relative strength just continues to stand out, especially in some of these smaller names. Do you have any favorites of the ones that you just kind of threw out? I think
CCJ is the blue chip of this space. They're still speculative, but there's another current that's interesting too. So President Biden just recently made this 1 million square acre, whatever, parcel of land by the Grand Canyon a national reserve, which means you can't do any sort of mining on this land, right? And one of the things about uranium, at least domestically, is most of the uranium mines are either on federal land or they're on tribal land, right? So if we start seeing that same move, right, where the government's protecting these areas, again, I think that's going to make the supply harder to get. It's going to make prices go up, and it's only going to benefit some of these companies.
The Cameco making new highs as we speak. You mentioned that UEC. Can you throw up the second one there, UEC? So just to put things in perspective, the CCJ is $16 billion in market cap. UEC, which is Uranium Energy Corp, is under $2 billion. And it's based out of Texas, actually, UEC, in Corpus Christi. It's not one of these Canadian scams, right?
Yeah, right. So like I said, some of these stocks these companies they're speculative, but they look technically really nice. And like I say, when you get a big macro fundamental story that lines up with technicals, that's my favorite.
I love the change, right? Like not only is it now a very bullish story for this industry, but it's coming off of 10, 20 years of a very bearish narrative. You can't own these things. They're dangerous. They're bad, 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 bad. I just really like that kind of, seems like mispositioning.
Yeah, it's like there's a whole total addressable market out there that has been shut down for the last 30 years. It's the way I feel about, our friend Howard, right? He's investing in night golfing. right?
Yeah.
If you go across the world, Korea, like they have tons and tons of these golf courses that are lit at night. But in the United States, it's very rare. And you think to yourself, well, there's this whole section of the day from basically sunset on that could all of a sudden be accessed and people could play golf. That's a huge market that could be unlocked. And I feel it's the same way with nuclear stocks.
Is Howard going to Future Proof? I gotta ask him.
I don't know if that's his jam. I mean, he's just down the street. He should be there. I mean, you know, JC, he's your podcast buddy, right?
He's in the city today. He's at some watch thing or something like that. He's like, you want to come? I'm like,
the portfolio.
I'm not going to the city for some watch thing. I don't even wear. I have such a nice watch. I never even wear it. Can you throw up next gen here? It's coming in from the chat. Billy Cunningham says, and I quote, "Best uranium period." And not for nothing, I'm having a hard time disagreeing with our friend here, Billy. Nice shout out, Billy. This is a $2.7 billion uranium stock out of Vancouver, British Columbia. Now that's more like it.
This is the crowd favorite. It's been that way.
Look at that polarity, bro. Like, man, that former resistance turning into support, former resistance turning into support. It's like a stair step higher. No arguments here, Billy. No arguments for me.
JC, I love your references to the Canadian stocks because, like, we old school people know what that means. I mean, if you ever traded a stock on the Calgary Exchange or something, you know, so many of those were just like.
I haven't done that. That now you're getting real junky.
I did that.
I didn't even know Calgary had an exchange.
Yeah, though they used to. I don't know if they do anymore.
The venture exchange in Toronto is junky enough for me. You know. Like, I don't think they allow real companies into that. Like, if you're like a legit company, I don't think you're allowed in that in that exchange.
So if you're a legit company, you don't want to list on that exchange.
Touche.
Yeah.
Touche.
Fun fact, that's where SPACs basically started, right? They would have these companies that were basically shells, and they would get legitimate companies would sometimes take over a shell company to kind of do a reverse IPO. That was way back in the day in the 80s, and now they've been repurposed into SPACs, you know.
Yeah, that's right. That's exactly right. You know, these what is what's that the old author talking Huckleberry Finn guy? What's his name?
Mark Twain.
Mark Twain, right? Gold miner is a liar standing next to a hole in the ground, right? That's turned out to be very true. And when did he write that? Like 150 years ago? Like, how old is Mark Twain? He's old at this point, right?
Yeah.
I don't think he's with us any longer.
200 now, probably.
Probably. Is that how long it was? It was like late 1800s, wasn't it?
You're the literate guy here, JC, not me.
I'm the literate guy. Are you kidding me? What's hilarious is that I used to get terrible grades in English because my reading comprehension was terrible. And I've made a living writing. My third grade English teacher would fall out of her chair if she knew this, right? It's amazing how you evolve over time. Okay, so man, we're talking about some junky stuff today. We're talking about pot stocks. We're talking about uranium. Any real companies on your mind?
Yeah. So the other thing that I've been talking about, and Steve and I have talked on Spaces about this a lot, is that whole concept of stage 2 stocks, right? Stocks that have came out of that distribution decline mode last year, went into the accumulation stage, right? And then are now starting to move. And it's really hard to tell. Is that a
Weinstein thing? Is that a Weinstein?
Yeah, it's Weinstein, and then Brian Shannon built upon that in his book. And it's really something hard to quantify. I use just a rough quantification of it is stocks that are above the 200-day that are pulling back to the 50 and hold. I use the EMA. And so if you use that as your criteria, I have a list of names, JC. I figured you would maybe be asking this question. So if you look at Team, you look at Akamai, Roku just had a successful test of its 50. There's a NRDY. So there's a lot of stocks that broke out earlier this year and they pulled back, successfully tested the 50 and are now starting to go back up again. I think those are some of the stocks that could be big in the next, 6, 12, 18 months. Also, another old school name, Oracle. Don't sleep on Oracle. That looks pretty
now. Can you throw up that Roku chart in slide 1? I think this tells the story of the types of stocks that you're looking for. It's uncanny just how tight Roku and ARK have been trading, and it's really from an asset allocation standpoint. I don't even know if Roku's even in the ARK indexes. My suspicion is it isn't even in there. But these are the types of stocks that I think that you're describing. Do I have that right?
I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically that big waterfall that you see, right? Going into, I mean, this is so perfect, right? You see that topping pattern, a very clear topping pattern. Then it fell off a cliff. Then it found, like you said, stocks before they go up, they have to stop going down. So it stopped going down, went sideways, and now is starting to make that move back out of that sideways action. So that's pretty close to the perfect chart there.
I love you giving me credit for that line. That's a Luis Yamada line for sure. Throw up slide 1 there. That's a Luis Yamada line, but it's true. And people always chuckle when I say that because I guess they haven't really thought it through. But before they can start going up, they got to stop going down, right? Like that's just a fact. Look at this bad boy. What year is this?
That's crazy,
right? And I
next thing you know, Cisco's going to start breaking out.
Dude, I don't know about all that, but look at Dell making new all-time highs. Throw up the Dell chart there, slide 2. Look at that bad boy. Like, is this taking you back to the late 90s? Was that the best decade for music late in the 90s?
No, definitely not. 90s was pretty shaky, dude. I'd say late 70s, early 80s. And of course, Microsoft is the poster boy for this sort of action, right? A stock that went nowhere for 13 years after that big rip into the internet boom, and everyone wrote it off. They said, yeah, Microsoft is going to be dead money. And then if you look at where it went since, it's been a monster.
How about that? All right, the fun police is here.
Yeah,
I'm just hanging out and enjoying the conversation. I'm not here to
doubt it.
Yeah.
By the way, I heard you guys give Spencer some cool props yesterday on your spaces. You guys were talking about how you're tech nerds and you only focus on price. And since Spencer's been in the mix, it's kind of broadened your guys' outlook. So I thought that was cool. I appreciate that.
I didn't even get to listen. I mean, I guess I could have, but I was on the beach. So thanks for that, Brian.
Yeah, we were giving Spencer props. Listen, we break his balls a lot around here, but we give him some love sometimes. We keep it balanced.
Sometimes it pays to know the news. For example, Roku this morning dropped some guidance on us. They're laying off 10% of their workforce.
Good.
And Wall Street loves when that happens. So that's why the stock is up. What is it up this morning?
More profitable now.
Honestly, we need unemployment to go up, right? Isn't that part of the inflation problem?
It slowly is.
We talked 10% this morning. So
with the jobs report, but unemployment did finally tick up a little bit in a meaningful way.
Went from 3.5 to 3.8, something like that, right?
Too many open jobs available.
Yep. Layoffs. Never heard of anything more bullish. Sure. You must be listening to JC a lot. So Brian,
it's not me. It's just math.
So Brian, we'll see you in a few days.
Yeah, I'll see you in a few days. I want to say let's go back to that same place because we all loved it so much. But
sure,
let's mix it up. Get us a new spot. But
where you guys want to do a Korean barbecue? We could do that too.
Let's do Vietnamese.
All right.
Oh, I'm down for whatever, Brian, man.
Okay.
I trust you with my life. Whatever you think, I'm in.
All right.
You guys have fun. Though, does sound good.
You guys have fun out there.
Right.
See you later, Brian.
All right. Thanks for having me. Bye.
All right.
That was a great conversation, right? Pot, uranium,
always
some old school tech.
Brian, we talk enough and we listen to each other and read each other. We kind of know where each of our heads are at. Makes for some good conversations. We're lucky to have such smart friends.
Yeah, we talked to Brian. We know where his head is at and stuff like that. So I guess that shouldn't be a surprise.
I am so with him with these uranium stocks. I'm sorry I keep bringing up yesterday's conversation, but it's like we talked about with the sentiment for oil and gas and energy. It's like that, but to 5 multiples stronger. These companies are just so hated. I don't know if anybody owns them anymore. And CCJ is big, man. That's not a small company. It's not a small stock.
16 billion
for materials stock. That puts
Lund Energy is Lund Energy. Lund is 180 billion. That's pretty big. That's the largest chemicals company. I wonder what the second largest chemical stock would be. Probably nowhere near that.
It's one of the painters. They're considered chemicals.
Sherwin-Williams or one of those. Yeah. All right, let's talk about some real companies. Can we bring on Kimmy?
Kimmy, super active day. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trades yesterday for Kimmy. Let's bring her on and talk about them.
Let's do it. Kimmy,
Hey guys.
did you go 7 for 7 yesterday?
Well, McDonald's was being annoying, didn't go. So.
Oh, okay. So 6 for 7, and that 7th one was a flat trade. No profit, no loss. You actually lost a penny. How dare you, Kimmy?
I
You know,
made a
6
penny.
winners, and you lost a whole penny on
No,
that
she
7th
made-
one.
no,
What
she
were you
made it.
I
thinking?
made a penny.
Oh, you
I
made a
made-
penny. Oh, well, I take it back. 7 for 7 it is. Nice.
You know,
take,
I had
Kimmy.
50 cents there on it. I didn't take it. You know, I really wanted McDonald's really pushed down. It was just really difficult. Anyway, though, but I tried again to see. We talked about CVX yesterday morning.
Yep.
A bunch of us in the room, we couldn't get executed.
Really?
Filled. Sorry, that sounds like terrible. Like we couldn't get filled on the trade because I wanted to take it right out of the gate, right out of the morning, like 9:31, whatever it was. And they didn't fill a bunch of us, but some people did get filled. And I was looking for 166.30 on it. You know, when it opened up around 165.30, 40, I tried to get in. I tried to cancel it, put another order in. It just didn't fill myself, a couple other people, and then some people got, you know, were able to get the trade and took the trade. So it was awesome for them. I don't know why. It was our whatever. It wasn't our system, meaning who we trade through. It just didn't fill us. So
long Airbnb for a profit, shorted Exxon for a profit, bought Roku for a profit, TTD for a profit, SMCI for a profit, AMD for a profit, and then made a whole penny on the McDonald's. But I really like what you called out this morning on this Unity. Bullish in golfing yesterday, Candle. You've got outside day. It engulfed the last 3 days of trading.
Well, I called it out yesterday in the room. I called out Tesla in the room at like later on the day at 256. So someone did take a trade in that, caught a buck in that. I called out Unity at 38, like 27, and a gentleman in the room did trade it and made like 50 cents on it. Now pull back in. Now we'll see if there's a continuation in it. So yesterday there was a trade in it as well, but it's still looking good. So I'm hopefully, let's see if it pushes through. The market's kind of pulling in, so we'll see.
Man, this Unity, wow. You know, those outside days, you know, this is kind of like, so yesterday was the first day of trading after the long weekend. You know, this kind of like capsulates, right? The dead week before Labor Day, and then the big boys come in and you get the real move, right? Engulfing the last 3 days, like the entire back half of last week engulfed in one day. Like that stands out for me. So I will definitely be looking for that. And then just generally in the overall market, seems to be messy for longer is how I see it based on everything. Not necessarily, you know, a doom coming or 1987 crash or anything like that. No evidence of that. Just messy for longer at the index level. Do you
longer? You mean like within the next few weeks, or longer till the end of the year? What are you talking about?
Somewhere in the middle. Probably more than a few weeks, but not all the way to the end of the year. Probably 3 to 6 weeks. If I had to guess, you know, is sort of where my head is at. Like going into October, probably. Maybe mid-October.
Market usually typically like bottoms around mid-October and then starts to tick back up into like the bullish 6 months of the year. You know,
although when you bring all the cycles together, we create a composite. The composite cycle for this year actually has the bottom in August. So if the bottom is already behind us, it would be perfectly consistent with historical norms. But based on the weight of the evidence, putting seasonality to the side, I'm just not buying that it's behind us. I mean, maybe it is, but sideways for longer is my bet. But that doesn't change the fact that there's huge winners that we're seeing underneath the surface at the stock level and at the industry group level. And you clearly pointed some out.
And losers for that.
And losers. Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
But what do you mean it bottoms? The market doesn't typically bottom. You said bottoms on the composite.
Right. So if you include all the pre-election years going back to 1950,
August,
you include all the 30 years of every decade, and you create a composite of what this year would look like, bringing all that in. The bottom, that cycle bottom is in August. But again, for you and for me, we're not putting seasonality at the top of the list of importance. It's just to kind of put things in context, and then we'll let the market dictate that, right?
Well, like I said to like everyone in the room, beginning of August, I said, we could start to get bumpy here, so be careful, take a step back or trade smaller or just be very selective what you trade. So I said we could start to get bumpy. I think we could maybe still be bumpy for the next few weeks. Maybe we have one more decent week here and then we start to get bumpy again. I know we'll have CPI, then we have the Fed. So it could get bumpy until, let's say, maybe mid-October or so. So, we'll see. JC, do you think the high's in for the year or what?
I do not think the high's in for the year. Like for the S&P 500? No.
Yeah.
Do you?
I thought so, and I'm not sure. I can't, if we do, I don't think there's that much power left in it for the year. I wouldn't mind going down and then back up first, but I wouldn't mind like a complete flush out. I mean, August was just it was a gradual pull in. Sometimes I like those whooshes.
Well, listen, some
I don't want to scare anyone.
It's like ripping the Band-Aid off, right? Just
Yeah,
get it over.
I like to just get it over with.
As opposed to death by 1,000 cuts.
Right, exactly.
But to your points, I think that the market in general would prefer that, and the market's going to do what's going to piss off the most people. And I think churning sideways for longer is going to frustrate the most amount of participants. So let's take advantage of that.
Exactly.
Yep. All right. Let's see. One of the things I like about Kimmy is I can usually count on her to get down and dirty in some of these trending stocks of the day, like Roku. I have a feeling you'll be watching that one today, Kimmy. They're up 11% now in the pre-market. If you want to be in Kimmy's room while she's trading, actually see her trades as she's making them and calling them out, you can do so. The link is on the bottom of the screen right there. It's also in the description, Day Trader Pro. Check it out. It's where she's going right now. Kimmy, have a good one.
Keep up the good work, Kimmy. You're crushing.
Thank you. Bye.
All right. 9:24 here. We got about 5 or so minutes till the opening bell, and there's a QR code. If you're more of a QR code, it is on the screen. 5 or so minutes till the opening bell. Taking stock of things. Kimmy's morning note. She was like, it's very quiet out there, and she is right about that. It's pretty quiet out there, just from a overall market and individual movers.
Is it? Oh, pre-market movers is quiet.
Yeah. I'm just looking at the futures and the pre-market gainers.
Should we do the JC futures rundown?
Yeah, I'm working off of one screen here, so I don't have all my information. So what do you got here?
Hold on,
Strazza.
Hold on. So I tend to always kind of like reread, or I bring reminiscences with me when I fly.
Reminiscences of what?
Reminiscences of a stock operator.
You were reading that on the plane yesterday?
It's just a good, like, fun, like, easy read, and it's nice that's a good rereadable, right? That one should be reread, I think, every few years, right? So it's a plain book for me. The stock market is never obvious. It is designed to fool most of the people most of the time.
That's right.
There you go.
If somebody else said, if it's obvious, then it's obviously wrong. Somebody else said that too. I think it was like Walter Deemer or something like that. Yeah, sounds like a Deemer quote.
He's so quotatious. It's fantastic. Go for it. I don't want to disturb your 5 minutes before the market opens. Let's talk about what the market's doing before it opens segment.
Well, for those of us who
some markets have been open, Strazza.
So I was going to say, some of us who took math class and can calculate that the market opened at 6 o'clock yesterday. Futures have been open. Futures are almost done for the day, as a matter of fact, if you really want to go there. Dow Jones Industrial Average futures down 20 basis points, about 65 points. S&P 500 futures down about the same. NASDAQ futures down about the same, 20, 25 basis points. Bonds up a little bit. Gold down a little bit. Silver down again, down 2%. Copper down 1%. Oil flat. Natural gas down 3%, and the dollar ticking lower a little bit, with the euro and yen ticking higher. VIX up a little bit with yields slightly down. And that, my friends, is the futures rundown as the market is almost closed for the day. We only have, let's see, it's 9:30. It closes at what, 5? Is it 5? 5:30? So we've got, we're about over 2/3 of the way done for the day, Strazza.
So what happened yesterday? Why did we dump yesterday? Was there news? Spencer, you're going to tell me something about home builders? I'm seeing some ugly candles. I leave my desk and everything
the
falls
home
apart.
builders stuck out to me. You know, you look at the top gainers and losers of the day, and the list was chock full of home builders and home construction stocks.
Was that housing data?
No, they're stuck below overhead supply.
I'll be honest. I don't know. I'll admit when I don't know something. I have no idea. Maybe
it was their worst day of the year, JC. It was their worst day of the year.
Maybe.
Okay, fine, but look at that XHB. Are you surprised that they're having a hard time?
No, but I'm sure there was some sort of data release. Red book sales today. I'm sure something.
You know what? Hold on. You know what? I just remembered. I saw this yesterday. Mortgage applications lowest.
There you go.
Lowest since like 96 or something.
That'll do it.
Because who wants to sell their home to buy a more expensive home at a much higher mortgage rate?
Here you go.
Nobody.
The U.S. housing market index fell in August for the first time this year.
You like my fundamental analysis,
and mortgage applications at like a 25 or 30-year low, so that'll do it.
7% mortgage rates and record lows in affordability are sharply curbing demand. Listen, everybody's seen this from a mile away. Home builders are increasingly using incentives to bolster sales. 55% did so in August. All right. I don't think anybody will be shocked by this if there's some sort of, softness in the housing market. It's just been incredibly strong, particularly for new homes. So we'll see.
Yeah, but if there's going to be a corner of the home market that's good, that's going to move, it's going to be new home construction, because those homes have to sell, right? Most people don't have to sell their house. Unless
nothing has to sell, Spencer. If there's no buyers, you could build as many new homes as you want. They'll sit there.
Yeah, that's true.
For the record, there are buyers, just not at this price.
Yeah.
Right. So we'll see. I think this new home building spree can only last so long, right? You would imagine supply and demand will eventually find some sort of equilibrium there.
I would certainly hope so.
Spencer looking to buy a home
for my sake.
It's tough out there.
You guys want to do hot corner real fast?
Yes, I was going to say they're buying this. They're buying this PI again, man.
All right, hot corner.
Very aggressive.
Hot corner. So hot right now.
How do you pronounce this? Strazza? Impinge?
Impinge.
What the hell's going on, man? $5 million they just bought. More.
Or a hedge fund. It's nothing.
I know, but they keep buying more and more and more. It's not like a big stock. It's a $1.8 billion stock, so it's not like there's that much to go around. Right? It doesn't trade that much. Trades 700,000 shares. I'm just saying. It's aggressive.
Let's talk about this energy transfer here. This is another one that's been on a lot.
Why are you just ignoring the PI? You don't care? It's not a big deal? Can you throw my chart up there, slide 1?
This isn't new because we've talked about this one on here. It's the same insider. They've had a big stake. Yes, they're adding, but this isn't, still sitting down there. You could buy it against those old highs.
Who are these guys? Celebra Capital. You know these cats?
Let's see. I will Google for you.
I mean, they're buying very aggressively right at support. It's almost like they have a technician working for them. They're like, this is where we accumulate.
So they're focused on mid-sized tech, media, and telecom. This seems to be a communications equipment company. So this is kind of the pond that they fish in. Some of their bigger holdings: Elastic, AMD, PCT. 2.4 billion.
But the ET, speaking of which, we keep seeing more and more buyers. Is it the same guy buying, or it's more people buying? It's different people.
I believe this is Kelsey Warren again. It says co-founder, right? I didn't double check, but I imagine that's Kelsey Warren out there again, buying more shares. What is ET paying you now? Let's check this yield.
Who's Kelsey Warren? Oh,
Is that
Kelsey
not the buyer?
Warren, executive chairman. It says co-CEO, which would be either Marshall McRae or Marshall McRae III or Thomas E. Long. Kelsey Warren is the executive chairman, so this is not Kelsey Warren.
I'm not. We're gonna have to fact check.
We're gonna have to fact check that. You know how much.
Where are you finding these officers' titles that I'm supposed to trust you on?
Oh, I got sources, my man. I got sources. Every company should have a technician working for them. Agreed. I mean, for the record, most do. Especially from on the trading desk that are actually executing the orders. They're using technical analysis. They're using anchored VWAP. They're looking for accumulation zones and distribution zones. So, most do. Let's keep that in mind. Even at the execution side. So ET.
Regardless,
so hold on.
Chart looks good. 9% yield.
ET 9% yield. Wow.
Uh-huh.
And if you look at the stock on its own, number one, it's breaking out to new multi-year highs. But when you add the dividends, right, and you're looking at a total return, it looks way better because such a big, just a big one. See?
So
look at
Marshall,
retired Fido, McRae and Whitehurst both buying. See? The whole gang is getting involved.
Marshall McRae.
I'm telling you, Strazza loves it when multiple insiders are buying. That means that they're all in cahoots. They're all in these meetings together. They all know what's going on, and they're buying stock for their own accounts. Good for them. I'd be doing the same thing.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of action in this name. Seems like everybody is getting involved. Love to see it. Hey, we have seen such bullish subsector rotation within the energy sector for the past year or two now. These stocks haven't led yet, right? Maybe it's time for the pipeline operators and these midstream companies to take a shot at some leadership, and the insider filings would support that, because this isn't the first MLP that's kind of popped up on the hot corner. And I also think a good way to play it is just through one of the funds. I think AMLP is a good option too.
No, but is AMLP even liquid?
Yeah.
Is?
Yeah.
Yeah, trades 1 million shares. Yeah.
That's like the only one, I think.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So a ton of options activity in Tesla. Can you throw up that long-term Tesla chart? Because I think this is a good time to take a step back. It's always a good time to take a step back, but it's always like, oh, what did Tesla do today? Did you see Tesla? Did you say? Don't throw. This is what people see. They see this mess. Look at this mess. This is the messiest mess that I could think of right now. Now zoom out and throw up there slide 1 so you can see where the put things into context. And tell me that this is very messy. Tell me. Look at that. What do you think, Spencer?
Tesla was the range
when you zoom out, right?
Tesla was the rangiest range-bound stock of all time for like 4 or 5 years.
That's right.
Or no, well, I guess longer.
And we were right here pounding the table talking about when this thing breaks out, it's going to be gone. Especially all the journalists that were hating on Tesla, like just so much anger and hate about Elon and Tesla during that range. I remember it well. It well.
We were all over that breakout.
It was 250 to 400.
We were.
Yeah. It was 250 to 400 pre-split. I remember it. Yeah, because every time it got to 400, I was like, oh, is this the moment it breaks out? Nope. Back to 250 you go.
But doesn't this chart, like, isn't this truly representative of what this company has done? And if you're just looking at the short-term chart, you're like, oh, this thing's a mess. And while it is, no question, we have to understand that we have to put things into context of the underlying trend, which, wow. So I think ultimately, messy for longer makes sense in a market environment that we think is going to be messy for longer. Ultimately, I think the trend probably continues higher. I'd be surprised if it didn't.
All right, one more honorable mention before we move on from this segment. Throw up the Mirum Pharmaceuticals chart. So this company is actually pretty interesting. They have a number of late-stage candidates to treat liver disease. Since it came public, just up and then rangy. I think you could buy this breakout. What do you think, JC? Maybe not the cleanest, but there's obviously a clear level of interest there. that you could use to trade against.
Listen, you're looking at a $1 billion company, and then El Duderino here, Patrick J. Heron, buying $3.8 million. Anybody know who this Patrick J. Heron guy is? Because that's $3.8 million. That's not nothing. And I don't see him here as a key executive. Maybe he's a scientist.
I mean,
You know?
I'll probably get hate for this, but trading. I don't know. I don't know anything about this company or this stock. I don't know what they have in the pipeline. Maybe they have 1 drug. Maybe they have 15 drugs. I have no idea.
What do you mean you can't buy it? Why can't you buy it?
No, I was saying I don't know anything about them. But like trading these things off technicals when they have such binary events is, I think, a bit of a recipe for disaster. Or at least not looking at what's in their pipeline and going on.
Well, it's $1 billion, so it's not like this tiny little nothing. It's $1 billion.
What's the ticker on this again?
It's
MIRM. What don't you like about it, Spencer? So this guy's a fund manager, JC. Fraser Healthcare.
Oh, so he filed the Form 4 because he's already an insider?
They probably own over 10%. Yeah.
Got it.
Okay. It looks like they have.
Yeah. Sorry, Spencer.
Looks like they have a couple drugs in the pipeline.
Just said that. Are you listening?
Oh, I was too busy thinking about what I was going to say.
I just said they have a number of candidates in phase 3 for liver disease.
Yep. Okay.
That's what I'm seeing. That's what up against resistance here. You know, I agree with Spencer on the single drug situation. These small biotechs. I learned early in my career to stay away from that stuff. It's not worth it. You know, as you start getting above $1 billion, and it's more than just one thing, you're sort of, I don't want to say eliminating that risk outright. But Spencer does have a point with, I would say less. I don't necessarily agree with your pipeline thesis, but I would say the event calendar should probably be on your radar in terms of, you know, going up for FDA approvals or non-approvals as they usually are, you know.
But by the way, and if you do trade this stuff, you don't have to know what the words mean in the press release. The only words that matter are met primary endpoint or did not meet primary endpoint. Those are the only words that matter. So you don't even have to read the rest of the thing.
Sounds like you were a biotech junkie in a prior life.
No. I just, again, I pay attention to news flow. Okay. No,
there's a name that popped up on our scan a few weeks ago. Oh, never mind. Move on.
All right, show the folks where they can find that scan. It's great. Great email I get every day.
I have a landing page, but I'm on my laptop and I don't have it saved. So just for now, email me questions at stockmarketmedia.com. We'll get you on the list for the hot corner. You want to bring on Mary? We were talking about pod stocks before, and I thought, oh, it's good that we're talking about that ahead of Mary's segment because I imagine she has thoughts as well. So
I don't know. Yeah, but I want to talk more about pot stocks.
I don't think Mary smokes pot. Oh, you're saying she bought the stock?
No, but she loves her some Tilray.
Yeah.
Let's get Mary
on here. Mary.
Good morning.
Michigan is a pot-friendly state, right? Always has been.
They are, yeah. We passed medical marijuana several years back, I want to say.
Not always
4 years
been,
ago.
But it's been a few years, yeah.
Yeah, but when it started becoming on a state-by-state basis, I feel like Michigan was one of the early ones, no?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yep.
What you think? Okay, so 2 things. Number one, what you think of the conversation that we had with Brian Lund, and what did you think? And what did you think about last night's call?
Which one do you want me to start with? So, loved listening to Brian. He's always got great things to say, and felt like a little bit of my thunder was stolen there because I was going to talk about Tilray. Steve, I will save you from talking about it very long. But we were talking about this. I mentioned this, I think, about a month ago at the analyst meeting. Y'all laughed at me. And it's definitely one that I've been keeping my eye on. I've been in and out a couple of times.
We laughed with you, Mary, not at you.
With me, true. I don't know if I see the difference there, but It's one that I've been watching. I've been in and out a couple of times. Like you said, JC, that 250 level is, I think, really important. We've got that little failed breakdown. So, since about a month ago, we've had a bunch of good news off of this stock in particular. And I mean, for the sector in general. And, it's very much a laggard. I mean, it's been going down and down and down until it hasn't. And so I find that interesting. And I don't know, maybe it catches a bit here. So,
Yeah.
How much of this, guys, do you think has to do with the fact that these heavily shorted stocks are just running? Only 14% short interest on Tilray.
You would think
Yeah.
it'd be more.
you would.
Where are the short sellers?
Come on,
in these
short
names?
sellers. Where are you at? Where are you at? Maybe
They're out. They're out.
Listen, I look at stocks like Carvana and what they've been doing over the past few weeks and months now. Is it shocking to see pot stocks finally catch some sort of a bid?
I mean, they were bound to, right?
When any sort of news, like this news to me, this rescheduling is a nothing burger. So the fact
Well, and don't forget, Tilray had that beverage announcement too, the buying of the beverages. They also had really good earnings, which is what initially popped that stock about a month ago.
Here's the thing. Beverages it's a crap business to be in too. And these companies have promised crazy growth. And that was the story. Now all of a sudden they're just going to be a beverage company. Spencer, am I wrong? I mean,
it's
the
not
growth.
beverage. It's alcohol
Spirit.
and pot. It's a recreational indulgence.
Well, let's
Listen.
remember that Amazon started as books.
Okay. You know what?
That's what I'm
okay.
making Amazon comparisons to Tilray.
It doesn't at all. The problem with this is simple. You don't want to be super bowled up on an industry that has seen nothing but shrinking margins since the day the industry began. That needs to stop. For me, it's not even.
I know, Strazza, but everybody knows that. That's why the stock did what it did.
So that needs to end and turn around.
And is it price forward looking?
They're uninvestable until that happens, and I'm uninterested.
All right, fine. Well, me and Mary, long above 250. Let's go, Mary, and then then we'll buy Strazza some drinks with the profits.
Sounds good.
Some cannabis drinks.
Yeah. What about last night? What'd you think about last night?
Last night's call was great. That's honestly probably my favorite part about the All-Star Charts premium service are the conference calls, just because it's like you said, you get an hour where you get to just kind of dump on everything that's in your mind, state of the markets and favorite setup ideas, trade ideas, where we're seeing the areas of strength and different sectors and industries. And for me, as a working mom of three, sometimes I don't have a lot of time to spend looking at charts or, doing the research. And so being able to take that 90 minutes and 90 minutes and listen to the conference call at the beginning of the month for the monthly candlesticks and then mid-month for the mid-month update. I mean, that's kind of where I just kind of zero in, and then I take my list and open up rangefinder and see what's in range. And that's kind of where I start my shopping from there. So I love the conference calls. Like I said, my favorite part of the service.
And what was your favorite part of last night's?
So for me, I'm really interested. I feel like I've got a lot of exposure to energy, but at the same time, I feel like maybe it's not enough. So I was very interested to hear what you had to say, trade ideas with regards to energy. There's one, an international one from our International Hall of Famers list that I'm going to be keeping an eye on. I don't know if you want me to give it away.
Yeah.
You could say that it's parlez-vous français?
See, or no, sorry, I speak Spanish. Oui, parlez-vous français.
Oui.
Yeah. So that one caught my eye definitely. And like I said, I've got whole list of things I'm going to be researching.
Listen,
today.
if you don't have enough French energy exposure, you come to us for that. All right.
I mean, how about the price action, right? A little bit of a spooky candle with the way things closed yesterday in energy. No follow through today. They're just sending it higher again. There's a really strong bid for these stocks right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, if oil goes to 250, JC gets a beach house, right? I probably get a beach house at oil in 150.
Did you see Bianco's tweet yesterday? You guys want to talk about that?
What did he say?
I retweeted it.
Which one?
He's just talking about like how there seems to be a disconnect where Fed funds futures and the expectation for where interest rates are going is just not jiving at all with the price action that we're seeing in commodities markets. And I don't think economists tend to think in that way. Thank God for someone like Bianco, who has a loud voice and I think is respected when it comes to like talking about the Fed and interest rate policy. He was basically just pointing out the fact that if energy futures are going higher again, gasoline prices are going higher, inflation is going higher, and the Fed's not done. And I don't think it's rocket science. It's the writing's on the wall. When gasoline rolled over last summer, right, we were like, okay, that's it, done. The Fed's got to pause. Way earlier than the market realized it. And I think, again, energy futures are giving you some great insight into where this thing's going now this year.
I mean, listen, I as far as rates go, I got to see it. As far as what the Fed's going to do, I don't know. But if energy's going higher and oil's breaking out, rates not following, I don't see it. I think rates follow, right?
Listen, if these new highs are the real deal, this breakout in crude oil is a valid breakout. That means we're getting a leg up, and I think that means higher rates are coming and more hikes. Simple as that. Don't overthink it. Gasoline will follow.
But does like we're talking about 10s, 30s, does it need to be the Fed funds futures too, or is this where the long end now catch it, right?
Well, this would mean the short end has to move higher, and then that inversion would get even worse, right? It would stop uninverting, right? Unless the long end was able to really play catch up.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If the Fed stops and the 3 months and the 2s chill out, and it's the long end of the curve that's going here. Why don't you throw up slide here? This is a good way to put it.
At what point do financials get interesting? Under that
they are.
scenario.
Do you see these capital market stocks? We talk about them every day here. Throw up slide 1.
You got to see the banks.
This is it, right? This is it. Here's your long end, right? Got to see it. Haven't seen it yet, right? But if energy's breaking out, you'd think that these would follow too, right?
Here's the other thing, right? Pat made a good point. We were talking on the phone yesterday. He was like, I don't know if that was really a failed breakout in rates. That was just like a test of old highs. We didn't get how do you know if it's a failed move? Because you get a fast move in the opposite direction.
We haven't even gotten the move. What failed move? We haven't even broken out yet.
That's my point. There was no failed breakout in rates. It was just a test. Yep. And we're right back there. So if they keep knocking on the door, they're eventually going to go.
Yep. And if energy goes, I have a hard time believing that the long end is not. I don't necessarily know what the Fed's going to do. And if the short end needs to keep going too, we've actually seen a divergence between the short end of the curve and the long end of the curve. And maybe that continues. And maybe the market's already pricing that in. I guess we'll see. But the long end, I think, definitely follows those energy prices.
How's your bond trade going?
I'm out. Yeah, I made a little bit of money. No big deal. I'm out. It was a small trade. It worked. Move on. All good. It's that a trade like that is not really my style. Sentiment was really in the dumps. I got, I had some cash. I bought some bonds. I bought it live on the show, or I bought bond options. It worked for a week and a half or so, and in a low volatility market. And now I'm just going to see what happens.
What do you want to talk about?
Mary, got any active trades on right now?
Yeah.
Does she have active trades? What kind of question is that? Mary?
So I'm still in the trades that I've talked about the last couple of weeks. AMR and CAT I put on last week. Lately, just because things have been kind of range bound and up against overhead supply, I've been trading a lot more with Kimmy and taking the day trades. Yesterday, I was in Airbnb and SMCI with her, and so made some profit off of those. Thank you, Kimmy. So it kind of depends on what we've got going on in the market. If we're booming, then I'm going long on a lot of things, and when we're kind of stagnant like this and kind of chopping around, I definitely really appreciate taking advantage of Kimmy's service.
What's Mary's number? You guys call Mary. Whenever in doubt, just call Mary. You put the number in the chat? Oh, there's the number.
It's up on the 323-421-7910. Just don't call until after 10 Eastern Standard because I'm right here.
Spencer, why don't you make the phone number smaller just to make sure that really nobody can read it?
I can try that tomorrow.
Yeah,
if
make
you'd
it
like.
even smaller. Yeah, for sure.
All right.
Just make sure nobody knows it's even there. I think that's the move.
It's on the screen. You know what do you
It's
want?
on the screen. It's like in this little corner in this tiniest little font. Giancarlo,
All right.
Giancarlo, if you're
Here.
listening
Here,
out
here,
there,
here,
John
here, here.
Facenda, if you're listening out there, can you help him out, please? This
Absolutely.
I got it. I got it.
Ooh, there was the
There's
voice
that
of God.
That's the voice of God. I did a little channel checking at Wingstop yesterday. Should we get to the should we get to a little recess?
Hold on. Before you do that, is that better?
No, because now you can't even read what's at the bottom. No, it might
You
even be
just
worse.
swapped them.
It might even be worse. No.
All
Unacceptable. Unacceptable.
right.
Giancarlo, hit the recess.
Let's do some recess.
All right. This was this was an epic fat boy tweet from you. Did you really go to Wingstop and order 3 different flavors of wings and then brag about the free brownie? Did I read that right?
Proman would not be happy.
So I show up at Wingstop. I've never been to a Wingstop. It's actually right next to the DMV, which I've frequented quite a bit over the last year as we've laughed to ourselves. So I had never been to a Wingstop, and I'm making it a point lately, if you hadn't noticed, to visit some publicly traded restaurants and do a little channel checking. I'm doing my best to stick to the Perlman program, so I figured get some wings for lunch, a little late lunch. So I went to Wingstop. I was actually pleasantly surprised at how clean it was, because it's next to the DMV, which is just filled with people who you don't want to be next to. Generally at DMVs, right? Like it's not a place where you want to hang out and take your kids. So this is right next to that. So I was pleasantly surprised with how clean. Playing 90s hip hop and early 2000s hip hop the whole time, right? I walk in, Naughty by Nature's playing, right? And then like some Jay-Z. I mean, I'm like jamming, and I get to the lady, and her name was Miss Robinson. And I'm like, Miss Robinson, she introduced herself as the manager, and Miss Robinson, she's welcoming me, and there was nobody there. I was the only person there. So I walk in, and I was like, first timer over here, what should I get? And she looked at me like I had 6 heads, like, can you just order, right? So I'm looking at the menu. I'm like, what's the move? I'm like, you think the lemon pepper's good? And she's like, she gives me that look like, haha, yeah. Right? So I go, okay, getting the lemon pepper. And then I wanted to get the traditional hot, right? To see what the original thing looks like. And then I got the spicy Korean, right? So they come in 6s. So I got 3 orders of 6 to try them out. And she looked at me like I was crazy. Like I was ordering so many wings. I was like, is it really that many wings? So she was already judging me. And then I'm just sitting around. So then I go to the machine to get a drink, and I was just going to get like a Diet Coke or something. And it was one of those like fancy machines that has like, you could pick like any fountain drink ever. I don't know how to use those. I got a Diet Cherry Coke, right? Which I don't think I've ever had a Diet Cherry Coke.
Gotta have the Diet.
It was
obviously
delicious, a Diet Cherry Coke. Who knew? And so I'm sitting around just hanging out, and she's like, and I was like, oh, thank you, though. You were very helpful. And I was being a little bit sarcastic. And then she comes over. She's like, here's a free brownie on the house. I was like, look at that. And I didn't order fries, but I must have accidentally ordered a combo. So they gave me fries. Let me tell you, the fries may have been the best part. But these lemon pepper wings were off the charts. The Korean one was all right. And the original hot, they were all right. But the lemon pepper, woo! I'd get it again.
People like it. I mean, whatever they're doing has been working. For the rap music, Rick Ross is a big investor.
Rick Ross is a big investor in Wingstop?
Yeah, huge.
Huh.
Yep.
Who knew?
So, yep, I wouldn't be surprised at all by that. Spencer, did they have wings over in College Park?
Not when I was there. Fonz, I think we have the chart. We have a chart. You pull it up. No,
wings
no.
over. Yeah.
I did not have that in college. But what I was going to say was I can't have Wingstop probably ever again. The summer and fall of 2020, a few of us would come into the office because we didn't like working from home. And Jason Raznick would come in like once a week. and he would order Wingstop for the office, and this went on for like 8 weeks in a row, and he would just order Wingstop like every Thursday or something, and I had just way too many Wingstop wings that summer and fall, so probably never again.
What about the lemon pepper? Do you agree?
Yeah, they were good like the first 3 times, but like all
get
the
over it
times
quickly?
after that weren't so good.
It's a
And,
nasty
and
failed
there'd be
breakup.
leftovers in the fridge for like days, and oh god, no, you don't want that. So
It looks like shit.
Is Wingstop more of a regional thing? I've never seen one here in Michigan. Spencer, are they
No,
on
it's
the
more of a,
east side?
it's more of a new thing.
Okay.
I think they're still growing and expanding.
Okay. I mean, we just got a Chick-fil-A, like a year ago. So
you know what,
Chick-fil-A,
Mary?
overrated.
I've been noticing Chick-fil-A is expanding into Michigan. I've been noticing that.
yes, they've been moving
yeah.
up into the peninsula.
Oh yeah.
Since we're gonna just keep going with the fast food, I got a hot take. Bojangles over Chick-fil-A. I laid over in Charlotte yesterday. Was very excited to get to hit a Bojangles.
I've never heard of
What
it.
is
I've
a
never even heard of this.
Bojangles? What is it?
Chicken and biscuit.
So Carolina people would know very well. It's huge in North and South Carolina and along like the Eastern Corridor once you get probably to Virginia. And it's Chick-fil-A, it's Popeyes, biscuits, chicken, fixins, sweet tea.
Yeah.
It's the best chicken, I think.
And what
Really
kind of
good.
chicken? Is it fried chicken or grilled chicken?
Yeah, fried chicken. It's they would be in the same category as a Popeyes, right? You get the chicken and you get some sides and you get your sweet tea. It's lovely.
Whatever happened to Boston Market? Is that still around?
It is still
Yeah, but
around.
it's not really fried chicken. That's more like
Rotisserie.
like a Thanksgiving meal. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Not for
My
Can I do a recess? Can I do a recess? Would that be okay?
yeah.
You
Go ahead.
asked me about
Go
my
ahead.
Wingstop.
All right, so I am in my old office that has since been transformed into my father's work from home office here. JC likes to think that my Miami fandom has anything to do with him. It's got nothing. Grew up being a Dolphins fan. Look at this one. He's got his shrine with all of his Dolphin stuff here.
I like it.
Nice.
Who is it? I can't read it.
Larry Zonka.
Wow. Larry the legend, number 39. I like it. I like it.
And now I want to really embarrass my dad because they're downstairs. They like put our show on in the living room and like watch us on the big screen. Look what I found on his desk. Stocks that pay a dividend for 100 years. So I've been just kind of like, flipping through. Look at how thick this thing is.
This is your father's reading material?
Yeah, just pages and
First
pages.
of all, where
about
did he
dividends.
get that? Did he print it out online or is
I think this is a Kiplinger report.
what is a Kiplinger report?
They're a data company.
Oh.
So this one really stands out. York Water, ticker symbol, I think YORW, a record that spans 2 centuries. They are currently tallying their 600th consecutive dividend payment. Pennsylvania-based water utility. Have you heard of these guys? Only 600 million market cap, tiny. Been raising their dividend for over a century.
Wow.
That's crazy.
I mean, if
I didn't know they had. I didn't know your dad was around a century ago.
Nope, but York Water was.
All right.
York
Water's
Water.
been around for a bit.
Good pull.
Shout out, Mr. Strazza.
My recess is the last 2 days have taught me that I need to invest in a standing desk. This is standing up during the show is great. I love it.
Yes, Spencer. I'm sitting today, which I don't do. I hate it.
I know, but Spencer, you got to sit still. You're making me dizzy.
I
Just rocking
can't
back and forth.
stand still, man. I got energy. I can't.
Yeah,
Well, sitting makes you low energy.
Yeah.
Sitting like forces a low energy upon you. You got to stand
Yeah.
for something like this. JC, you're doing it all wrong. And you have a standing desk. You just refuse to use it.
I stand all the time, dude. Are you kidding me? I'm standing up all day. This is the only time of the day that I'm sitting down.
Okay, wait. Last thing before we go. Wait, can we decide right now whether we're doing a show tomorrow? Because Strazza has to travel. I know, so I know that was up in the air.
I can't make it. I have
Are
something.
we taking a
tomorrow morning.
hiatus to post for a week-long hiatus on the show? First hiatus ever.
So there's already no show.
I vote.
Yeah.
No show.
No show on Friday all the way through Wednesday, but I maybe we just started tomorrow because Strazza can't even be here.
Yup, 1 week hiatus. This is it, guys.
All right.
Wow.
We're taking a break. Wow. You think how are people going to survive the day without starting with us?
Look,
right?
All right, it's our summer break, summer vacation.
Summer break in the fall. I like it.
if
But
you
we gotta go to California. We gotta party with our friends. We earned it.
The way I heard it, it's still like 3 days left of summer here.
if you want to complain, I was going to say you can complain to Mary.
No, don't call me with the complaints.
No, but just call her.
Mary.
Call her in general, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you could read the phone number. Strazza, right now.
Yeah.
You always
All right.
give me like 4 names. Right now. Best pizza in Connecticut. Go. One place.
Colony's my favorite, but the top 3, Sally's, Pepe's, Modern. I like Colony. The 3 I just listed are the famous New
Is
Haven
Colony
style.
the one with the little ones?
We flew into Hartford yesterday. I wanted to stop at Pepe's in New Haven on the way home, but it was closed.
DeAndre says Pepe as well.
Colony's the bar pie. It's not for everybody. Special place in my heart. It's fantastic. Get the hot oil, get the stingers. Colony is the way to go. Dude.
All right.
All
People
right.
say Connecticut's got better pizza than New York. I don't know.
It does.
Those
It
are
does.
fighting
It's-
words, aren't they?
Aggressive. It's aggressive.
He-
People in Brooklyn
easily.
are not going to like that.
New York took New Haven style pizza and called it New York pizza, and now that's how the rest of the world knows it. But us up here, we know what really happened.
All right. Well, enjoy your time in Connecticut. Tell the family that I said hello, and I will see you in California, my second favorite state in the union.
Stay tuned.
I'm gonna miss the show. We'll be back in a week.
We'll be back in a week, guys.
We have options trade of the week coming up later today. That'll be at like 1:45. So JC and Sean, stay tuned for that. Know what to fix today, sadly. Well, what can I say? It's the summer break here at Stock Market TV. So we'll be back with the morning show next Thursday. Next Thursday will be our next show. So that's what we got. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up for me. We'd appreciate that. Subscribe to our channel. We'd appreciate that. Follow us on all the socials. I have a nice, pretty social media graphic that we had made. Let's bring that up on the screen if we can. There it is. The Twitter, the Instagram, the YouTube, all that great stuff. Thanks to Mary. Thanks to Kimmy. Thanks to Brian Lund today. Everyone, have a great rest of your day. Go make some money.
See you in Cali.
Have a good
Bye,
one.
everybody.
I can't take no loss. I don't even know what it costs.